Welcome, people, to a special live edition, Friday 15 podcast, Boston Marthon preview show. Give you the inside scoop from Boston. Jonathan Gault, the guy on your right side of the screen, has been in Boston. He's got the inside scoop. He's going to help you get rich, people. If we can find a gambling website, I'm sure John will have more inside information than anyone. I do want to apologize. I just did a 5-minute countdown timer. Started exactly at 1 p.m. for the first time in history, but I realized it wasn't live. So you need the countdown timer to build up the audience. And then I realized, wait a minute. Anyways, we'll also talk Jane Hedegren. 1457 as a high schooler, folks. The two girls in front of her almost broke the collegiate record, and she was leading most of the race. Incredible stuff. Guys, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. I'm liking this new punctual Rojo. I mean, the countdown thing, yeah, that was a little bit of an issue, but I get here at 12:59 and Robert's like, where are you? I like starting things on time. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine, actually, when we leave our listeners waiting for all the good stuff. So, yeah, good mood. Just got back from the press conference, pressed the flesh, said hello, kissed babies, all this sort of stuff that I do on Boston Marthon weekend. Got a shout out from Jack Fleming in the opening press conference because he's the CEO of the Boston Marthon. I see him running around town all the time. So that was fun. But yeah, ready to talk some running.
What was the shout out?
Oh, he was just saying, he was excited to see the promotional efforts and some of the T carriages. That's the metro system in Boston. They've got, Boston Marthon decorations and there's stuff around town. And so, yeah, I see this, when I bump into John running down Beacon Street or Com Ave. So, yeah.
Wow. John's the influencer everybody wants to be. Not even trying to be a social media influencer.
We do have one disappointing, sad news report. I know that there was a lot of college-age people listening to the show. There was a rumor that we were going to have intern Joseph on the show. But I had to make an executive decision. His collegiate men's PB is 15 flat. He's slower than Jane Hedegren. I thought it would destroy the credibility of the website if we had him on. So I just called him right before the show. He said, I understand, Robert. I probably would make the same decision if I was in your boots. So we don't want the credibility ruined. Anyways, we love you, Joseph. I'm sure you're next. He can't retire. He's got a 15 flat PB, and he's got like a few weeks left in college. It's like Steve Soprano, our longtime employee. He didn't break 15 until he was like 35. Keep going, people. Keep going.
Well, Steve's the inspiration. Someone like Joseph, you got to just take your cracks at it now and hope it happens, because it can be harder to have that motivation to keep going when you're not on a college team.
All right, Boston, I think the biggest storyline is the women, because Hellen Obiri is going for the three-peat. Hopefully I don't owe Pat Riley any money by saying that. He has trademarked the term. But I think 4 women have three-peated in history, but 2 of those were sort of the pre-professional era. I think the first 2 women's winners won 3 in a row. And then...
that was basically when they were the only women in the field or close to it. Bobby Gibb, right?
And then we had Uda Pipik and Fatima Roba back-to-back for 6 years in a row, from like 93 to 99. And no one's done it in the 21st century. Hellen Obiri's won the last 2. And I wrote the preview for the women on the website. And, this was without, I didn't call any coaches. This was just based on what they've done in the past, who's favored, whatever. And I had Hellen Obiri as the favorite. She was 6th in her marathon debut in New York in 2022. And she's never had a bad marathon since. 1st in Boston, 1st in New York, 1st in Boston, 3rd in the Olympics, 2nd in New York. and she's beaten a lot of the other rivals. I view 4 other women that could potentially win this race. Imani Barisa of Ethiopia, she's the fastest PB, 2:14:58 from Valencia in 2022. Y Square, that's Yalamzurf Yolohua of Ethiopia, 2:16:52 from 2024 Amsterdam. Irene Cheptai, 2:17:51 from Chicago last year. And Sharon Lucchetti, the former New York City winner, only has the 2:23 PB. But when I was looking at this, I mean, Obiri's raced a lot of these women regularly. Like I think she beat Lucchetti in all 3 races last year. So I just thought like these are all 30 plus women. They're not, Obiri's not that old. I just thought she's the woman to beat. And, you know, unless I hear her training hasn't going well. So the big question I had was, well, she's been training in Kenya, which is a little bit unusual. She normally trains in the States, and she hasn't run a prep race. She normally does run something before this. So is that just because she had 3 marathons in the fall, last year, and she wants to recover? Or is there something up? How's the training? But it sounds like from, I listened to the YouTube interview you guys did with Dathan Ritzenheim and heard what Helen told you, John. John interviewed Helen, and she said she's in way better shape than ever before.
Yeah. I was interested to see how she's going to approach this because, you know, she's coming off the one thing she hasn't done in the sport is win an Olympic gold medal. She's done pretty much everything else. She's won World Marathon Majors. She's gotten silver at the Olympics twice. She has won World Cross Country. She's won World Indoors. She's won World Outdoors. I was like, you know, what's driving her? And I think she just still wants to show up and keep competing. And I do think after last year, she needed to take a bit of a reset because she ran the Olympics, got 3rd. That was off a shortened build-up, comes back and gets 2nd in New York. She gets out-kicked at the end of the New York City Marathon, which is very rare. She's usually the one dusting people in the last 800 and 400. Instead, it was Sheila Chepkarui who broke away the last half of a mile. I think that was just a long year for her. It's 3 marathons, which she had never done in 1 year before. And obviously there's an emotional high and low coming off the Olympics. So she took a nice long break. And I think that was necessary. I was talking to Ritz and he said, yeah, when she started this cycle for Boston, I was running a workout with her and I was dropping her. Like she just wasn't very fit. But then she goes to Kenya and I think she wanted to go back. She hadn't been there for a while. You know, she's been in Boulder for most of the last 2.5 years. She was away from her family because her kids are in school, kids are in school in the US. And so her husband and, children were here and she's over in Kenya in Nairobi training, which is not one of the hotbeds in Kenya. Usually that's Iten and Eldoret, but it's where she has always trained when she's been in Kenya. And she said it went really well. I think she was a little worried about the Boulder winter, and they were doing some camp where they went down to Phoenix, and she's just like, it's easier for me if I just stay in Nairobi the whole time. Initially, she was supposed to come back earlier. You know, she was only supposed to be there for a little while. She just kept saying, no, I want to stay here. I want to stay here. Turns out she's been there for the whole 3 months. This was the first time Ritz had seen her in months, was today. So it's been a little different, but her training, she said, has been really, really good. She thinks that she's fitter than the last 2 times she won Boston. Ritz said that, you know, she's like, look, the Strava or the GPS segments, whatever she's been doing, those don't lie. Like, they've been impressive. Faster, actually, her 40K runs have been faster. It's different courses than she runs in Boulder, but it's still at elevation. So that's a good sign. And I think the onus really on everyone else is you're going to have to break Hellen Obiri before the last mile, because I think she's still going to be she's still probably got the best kick, even though she did get out kicked in New York. I think she was still maybe a little tired from the Olympics. And is anyone strong enough or bold enough to make that big move before the final mile?
If they are, I think it might be Y squared. I mean, when I was writing the preview, I was like, everyone I said, what's not to like about her? She's unproven on the course. Why she could win? And I said, have we forgotten how good she used to be? I mean, there aren't that many Ethiopian runners we give nicknames to. We nicknamed her Y squared. She was the road 10K world record holder, 29:14. We thought she was the half marathon record holder when she ran 63:43, but it was 54 meters short. And then she wins her debut in Hamburg. Now, check this out. April 2022. So highly touted on the roads. I mean, as a youngster, goes to the marathon, runs 2:17. This seems hard to believe when the world record is 2:09. That was the Ethiopian record in 2022. And then she backs that up by going to London and winning London. Remember, London was in October that year. So this is basically the fastest Ethiopian in history. I think maybe the fastest debut runner in history. She wins London. And then, since then, she's not been as good. She was 5th in London, 5th in World in 2023. But last year she did win Amsterdam in 2:16. And, we'll see what she has. But you talk about not leaving it for a kick. When she won London, she slammed in 23 and 24. So people at the time thought she ran again, these marathons mess up sometimes. We thought she had run the fastest split in marathon history. I think we thought it was like a 4:43 marathon, like mile 23 or mile 24 at London. Ended up being a little bit short, but push the pace with a couple miles to go and do not wait. So that would be epic if we actually got that. Y squared,
I think that makes sense, Robert. That makes sense. It was 24 and 25, and her 24th mile when they did the analysis, it was actually 4:59, which back in 2022 was a huge deal. Now it doesn't seem as crazy given that 4:59 is Ruth Chepengetich's full marathon pace. But yeah, I was talking to her and her agent, Dan Vandenberg, and they seem to think she's sort of back to her 2022 form. She said she was kind of injured in 2023, and that explains some of her results. But then, in the fall, she runs 2:16 to win Amsterdam. And that shows hey, we're definitely on the right track here. Then I asked him, Dan, her agent, how does she handle this course? Because it's her first time running Boston. Most of her other marathons have been pretty flat. And they said, based on the training data they have, they think she's a very good uphill runner. They don't think that's going to be a factor, a problem for her. But the other thing about Boston is the downhills. How do you manage them at the start? And then also, miles 20, 21, 22, when you're coming down Beacon Street through Brookline and really pounding off to the Newton Hills. And that one, he's like, about average, he thought. So it's TBD. I think the best strategy for her, though, Robert, is exactly what you outlined. You need to go with 2 or 3 miles away and try to make Obiri hurt, and don't leave it down to the last 800, 400. But she is coming in good form. Yeah, Yahala is. I think she should be one of the women battling for the win on Monday.
Okay, I'm not sure if Robert ever finished the point. She was the Ethiopian record holder. Now she would be the 21st fastest Ethiopian ever. That's sick. That doesn't make sense. In 3 years, she went from number 1 to number 21. Are you Robert? That wasn't a typo. You meant to hit number 11 or something.
She would be the 21st fastest Ethiopian times. I don't think there's 21 women that are faster. We could actually look it up, but yes, 20 women have run faster than that 2:16 in the last.
On 20 occasions, they've run faster. I mean, it's just so unbelievable. But Obiri has to be your favorite because, barring some sick, preview race or something, you kind of have to go on past performance on these things and what they say at the press conference. Although we should have a Let'sRun.com drinking game to sort of discount what people say. But for whatever reason, John, I'm believing what Obiri says, and Ritz backed it up. So there's 2 data points.
Yeah, well, most honest man in Boston today, Victor Kiplangat, the 2023 world champion from Uganda. Because I go up to him and I say, so first time running Boston, how's your preparation going? He's like, okay. I'm like, all right, I'm counting this guy out immediately. If you're only saying okay, that means there's something wrong. You're probably going to drop out or something, because everyone else comes in. Oh, it's great. Yeah, really, no complaints. Great buildup.
I mean, just the time game has changed so much. I mean, the Y squared shows that, but if we scroll down the list, Amane Bariso.
For the
world champ.
record, Yahalo is 19th. That is the 2:17.23. Her former Ethiopian record is the 19th fastest Ethiopian time as of right now, just in terms of pure times, and it would rank her 11th overall.
But I mean, just that 209 last year just threw everything out of whack. I mean, other contenders: Amane Bariso, 2023 world champ. She's run 2:14.58. That just sort of puts you in the equation these days. And I'm going down further in the list. Irene Cheptai. Oh, 2:17 in Chicago. I'm like, oh, I don't remember that last year. Yeah, because she got beat by 8 minutes and finished third. I mean, 8 minutes. I mean, it's really nuts. And then when you go down further on the list, because Robert, on the women's preview, go to letsrun.com to read the full preview. You've got four other contenders to Obiri: Bariso, Y squared, Irene Cheptai, and then Sharon Lokedi. And if you just do the Boston and New York circuit, you can have a 2:23 PB these days and, still be a contender. And what? But Obiri, I mean, in today's age, I would say she's probably a top 3 marathoner in the world the last 3 years. If you had to cumulatively rank them.
Absolutely.
Maybe higher.
So she just did get third at the Olympics. It's not a shocker. Well, congratulations on a brilliant observation.
No, but I'm just saying, collective body of work, it could be even number one. Her PB in today's age is 2:21. I mean, that's just so unbelievable.
I'm wondering, are we ever going to see the women hammer it? Like, wait, something like, what if Y squared just goes out and just says, screw this, I'm going for it? Like, will the other women respond? Obiri's never been put to the test early. So
right. It's curious because you would think like some of these people, maybe they see what Sisay Lemma did last year. They're like, he just got this gap and they never came back. He held on if you're that good. But I think someone like Yahalo, especially your first time running Boston, it would take an incredibly brave athlete to say, oh yeah, I'm just going to go for it. I'll really hammer and, screw it, take this big risk, dare people to come with you. That's very bold given what the hills that are waiting in the second half of the race. So I think a lot of first timers are hesitant to do it. And would someone like Sharon Lokedi give that a shot? That's what I'd be curious to see, because I was talking to her coach, Stephen Haas. He was very pleased with her preparations. He said that one thing that they've been doing a little different this time around is she's had male pacers for her workouts, which he thinks has just helped her a bit. She had a nice win at the New York City Half Marathon about a month ago. So she's coming in good shape. Like, he was feeling quite confident, but I'm like, she keeps getting out kicked by Obiri at the end of these races. Is there anything you can change? He's just like, you just got to get fitter and maybe move from a little bit further out. But Lokedi, she's puts herself in contention in these races. So I guess the question is like, would you want to risk something by making a move from further out, maybe even before the Newton Hills, in the 16 to 20 mile range? Or are you okay with knowing, hey, I'm usually in contention, and Lokedi closed quickly last year. It's not like she is running badly at the end of these races. She's just up against one of the best marathoners of her generation in Obiri. So she does put herself in contention in these races. It's just a matter of closing against, an all-time great closer.
It's just we've seen Obiri outkick all these women so many times. Bariso beat her in 2023. She beat her at the Olympics. So, anyways, we have been our sport is so small that we've been unable to find betting odds meet. Normally we find them a day or two before. I was thinking about it. Often the question is, would you take X runner against the field? And normally the answer has to be no. Kipchoge in his prime has to be yes. But I would be very tempted to take Obiri against the field here. I mean, the way I was thinking about it, I'm like, she has to be at least twice as high as any other woman. So if you were going to give her like a 45% chance or 40, even if you give her a 40% chance for winning, and then you give, Y squared a 20% chance, and then maybe Lucchetti a 15%, you're at 75. So I would give like Obiri something close to right at 50%, and then maybe give Y squared like 30%, and then so we're at 80. Barriso 10, Lucchetti 5, and then everybody else 5. I guess I missed Cheptai. What do y'all think?
Katie only gets 5%. Someone who's won New York City Marathon, who was right there with a mile to go last year. I'd bump her odds up a little bit. But I guess she does. I mean, the argument against her is she just repeatedly gets beaten by Hellen Obiri, apart from her debut when she won in New York in 22.
For whatever reason, I think I'd put Obiri just under 50%. I think I would take the field in that bet. But maybe I shouldn't. Maybe Y squared sort of capped out. If we really, I mean, just the times are so different. But she had the debut. Has she really progressed in the event since then?
Well, she did run a PB last year, but she had that stalled year of 2023 where she didn't make that much progress.
And the course for her, actually, how do we think?
Well, I already said it's her first time running Boston. Her agent thinks that she's good on the uphills, downhills TBD.
Actually, I'm going to discount her chances. The other, maybe I should slightly put Obiri above 50% because we had Ben Rosario on the regular podcast this week. You guys should check it out. Great talk with him. And he said, I like to see people in form with experience on the course or similar type courses. It's something she doesn't have. So there are question marks. But her pedigree's just so good. It's hard to say anyone's 50% chance to win a marathon. I mean, this is a pretty good field, right? You have her, you have Barriso. Like, they've done things in the sport, even if they're not coming in like super hot. Lucchetti obviously done well. Much more consistent, very good on these courses. So I think somewhere in the 40 to 60% chance. Maybe, guys, in the years past, remember, John, this is probably 2 or 3 years ago when sports betting was first legalized in the U.S. DraftKings wanted to put a line in Boston. The BA said no. Remember, there was like a little legal dispute.
Yeah, that was when sports betting had just been legalized in Massachusetts. And now it's like, doesn't even seem to be an issue that there is no gambling lines available. I mean, it's not, I don't think there's a huge number of people saying we need to be able to bet on the Boston Marathon, but it is an event that's a lot bigger.
I think there's a lot of people that are watching sports that want I know my buddy Chris Lear, who lives in Boston, loves to gamble. If there's a sporting event on TV, he likes to gamble on it. So they need to have a damn line in this thing.
I mean, I can bet on college lacrosse right now, John. I mean,
well, that was going to be my point before Robin interrupted me. Okay, Chris Lear, who's a running diehard, would like to bet on the Boston Marathon. That makes sense. But I was going to say, Weldon, given the things you can bet on FanDuel and DraftKings, it's kind of shocking that the Boston Marathon isn't one of them.
I guess we could tweet at Bovada. They have posted lines the last couple of years. They don't have anything now, but let me check these esports lines, see what I can bet here.
I think they're worried because it's a rare sport where insiders like John or myself can just, if we see a mistake in the line, we can hammer it and make significant money. It's not like
not as much in a marathon though. Marathons are more of a crapshoot. It's much harder to predict those races, and they're gonna. I'm sure any line they have will price Obiri as quite a significant favorite.
Right. The only way generally in the marathon is if you hear sort of at one of these press events, like one of the favorites you think is not going to win, then you take the other people. That's the way to do it generally, because there's generally not a lot of money in the favorite. All right, let's talk about the American hopes. And to be honest, I was kind of pessimistic about them. I said, like, there's 4 women that deserve our attention. I mean, there's a lot of Americans in here. Some, Kelsey Bruce and Sarah Vaughn and some nice older women with kids that are good stories. But in terms of like, and I think some of those people could be like top American, former champion Des Linden, whatever. But I'm like, in terms of like people who have a shot of being like top 5, I think that there's only 4 Americans, and I was like, look, there's 3 Americans that have broken 220 have broken 224 in the last 10 years. Keira D'Amato, Sara Hall, and Emma Bates. But I judge them by the Ben Rosario criteria. Have they proven they can handle a course like Boston? Are they in good form, and are they in the prime of their careers? And for the most part, they're failing these answers. Keira D'Amato and Sara Hall. Keira just turned 40. Sara's 42. So they're clearly not in the prime of their careers. Sara Hall's prime was probably 2021 when she was second in London. D'Amato was probably, 2022? Was that when she got the American record, John?
Yeah.
And since then, that they haven't been as good. And the thing that really concerns me about both of them is they have no proven track record of running on the hills. None. So I just don't think this is going to be a good course for them. So that being said, I was kind of interested in D'Amato in the sense of, okay, this is going to be hopefully her first finish under training at altitude and with Coach Eyestone coaching her. But John, you talked to Coach Eyestone. You thought that he sort of downplayed her chances when you talked to him. When I read the quotes and I put them in the article, the quotes themselves did not seem that negative to me. It says, she was training at a very high level, but in terms of her first running workout back, it was about 13 cross training at a very high level. It was 13 or 14 weeks ago. He says she's had a lot of good workouts. We didn't have the luxury of really putting her in any race situations. So he said she had a lot of good workouts, but when you recap the conversation, you thought it was kind of negative. So was it the tone that I'm missing out on here?
I think so. He just wasn't, Clayton, with Conner Mantz, it was very clear, like, hey, I think he's in the best shape he's been in. His build-up's gone fantastic. And with Clayton Young, they said, yeah, there were some hiccups early on, but his last 4 weeks have been really good. And Keira, he wasn't saying like, oh yeah, this has been a phenomenal build-up. I think she's really ready to go. He was more like, yeah, she had some good workouts, but the ankle injury, I think, lingered longer than they would have liked it to. Remember, that happened the week of Chicago, right as she was, traveling to run the race. And I was like, okay, how severe was it? And it kind of infringed on the start of their Boston build. She still got a pretty good block in, but he wasn't saying anything like, oh yeah, her training was going amazing. Like, I think she's ready to contend for top 5 or anything. I don't know. Just the way I interpreted it, it didn't seem as he didn't seem as high on her as Mantz and Young, which would make sense given they're both in their prime. So they've been coming off some really good races. But I think the other thing is Keira usually likes to race and do some sort of tune-up prep races. And that is why people were excited about Chicago, because she was running pretty well on the roads last year, Robert. I know you said her peak was 2022 when she set the American record. I'd agree. But she had been putting in some good road races going into Chicago. And I think that's why people were high on her. So this time around, she has just had to focus on training. They basically didn't want to run the road races because they wanted to make sure they wrung everything out of this abbreviated buildup, or slightly abbreviated buildup. So that's another thing, is we just don't have that prep race to really get super excited about with her this time around. We usually do.
And I guess there was this sort of damning quote from Eyestone. I think she's coming into this realistically, realizing she's 40 years old now. I think she'd just like to be the best Keira D'Amato that she can be at this stage, which I think is still very, very good. But that doesn't sound like, winning in her podium. So anyways, Sara Hall told intern Joseph that she's had a great build, but she's run Boston, never finished higher than 15th, I believe, maybe 10th. I've never been in the top 10. So I think that I was most excited about Emma Bates. I'm still excited to see what Keira does, because I think altitude is legalized drugs. So she's got a new coach. She's got legalized drugs. Yes, she's older, but we've seen even men make the Olympic team at 40. So I am excited about that. But Emma Bates, to me, we've been, she ran great in Boston, 2 years ago, led a lot of the race. And then we keep hearing, she's in sub 220 shape, and we've never seen anything close to that on a fast course. I think maybe 2 years ago when she ran that one in Boston, she talked a big game and ran it. But we're kind of like, you're in your early 30s. Let's see it. Like if we're going to get another great race, we need to see it in this race. But I'm excited about her. And then Dakota Poppin, formerly Lindworm, the Olympian. And Joseph said she had a great build. My concern is she proved in Boston, in Paris, she's a good hilly runner. She's one of the toughest people I've ever met, but she's never run well in Boston. Now, she never finished well in Boston, but maybe back then she wasn't that good of a runner. Finishing 15th wasn't that terrible for her because she wasn't that good. So the fact that she says her build has gone well, plus she's a Puma sponsored athlete, he didn't ask her, but my main question would be, are you wearing these new shoes? In case you haven't been on the website this week, it came out earlier this week. The same scientist that tested the Nike shoes and found them to be 4% better in economy than anybody else's has tested these new Puma shoes. Help me out with the name here, John. The
Robert, the only guy in running media. Someone was asking me if all this promotion is paid for. Everyone else is getting paid to promote this. This is just totally organic. Robert is so obsessed with this.
The Fast R Nitro Elite.
Whoever came up with that name should be fired on the spot. Even if they design the shoes, they should be fired on the spot.
And there goes any chance of getting any marketing dollars.
Admittedly, the same scientist was paid by Puma, but Puma was so confident in these shoes, they're like, hey, test them out. And he found them to be like 3.5% better than anything else in the market. Better than the Nikes, better than Adidas. So when I saw this, I was thinking, well, wait a minute here. What's been happening? There's been these Puma sponsored athletes, Taylor Rowe and Alex Myers, just been crushing it on the roads. Taylor Rowe has set a world's best at 10 miles. She won the U.S. half championships. Alex Meyer won the U.S. half championships. I'm like, they must have had these shoes. So I texted Alistair Craig midnight a couple nights ago. Wake up. He's like, no, they've not been wearing the shoes. So Alex Meyer is actually going to make his marathon debut next week in Dusseldorf.
Not his debut, but he's running Dusseldorf. Yeah, I think I would lean towards Popane as tough American. I'm with you, Robert. Like, she had been at the front of Boston before, and when she came her way running, finishing 12, 15th, that range, I wasn't thinking, wow, she totally bombed. I'm like, Dakota Popane, Lindworm back then, isn't this amazing marathoner. So those are pretty solid results. Now I think she's a lot better. So coming off that Olympics, yeah, I think she's got a very good shot to be top American. And the one I would be thinking she'd be battling it out for would be Bates, based on what we've seen from Bates on this course 2 years ago. But I'm the same as you, Robert. After that, I was like, okay, this is a springboard performance. She gets fifth at Boston. There was talk about going after the American record that fall in Chicago. That never happened. She ran 2:25 there. Last year, she got injured, which caused her to miss the trials. And granted, I think she was also kind of banged up in Chicago 2023. I think she rolled her ankle or something like that. So that may have derailed the fast time. But she comes back after missing the trials, is 12th in Boston. Nothing crazy. And then last fall in Chicago, 11th in 2:24. That was on a day where a woman set the world record. So she said on the podium today, she was the one person neither Joseph or I was able to talk to, but she talked about like wanting to win the race. And I'm just like, I really haven't seen anything that indicates she's even close to that. And I just think the top women in this field are so much better than the Americans that maybe the way the race plays out, you might still be in there in 5 miles to go if it's like slows down. But I just think there's a gulf, and I would be interested to see, like, is anything different? Can she recapture what she got in Boston in 2023? Because nothing Bates did last year suggests she'd be anywhere remotely close to winning.
I love the confidence. She talked a big game. What was it, 2 years ago, John?
Yeah, when she ran well, and she backed it up. She did run well in that. She said she thought she was in American record shape, and her performance, which was 5th place in 2:22:10, I think kind of did back that up. So the question is, what she got now.
If I'm going to evaluate the Americans in some sort of sliding scale, Dakota, I was about to say Lindworm, Poppin. She's done very well, but if you were like more like a mutter horse or something, I just don't see her having under any circumstance, unless it was some sort of like Des Linden type situation. I don't see how she can win this race. The speed isn't there.
Correct. The upside is
Emma
not high
Bates
enough.
somehow like a 1% somehow after what she did that race, pushing the pace, leading it. Somehow I would not 100% rule it out. You know what I'm saying? Which is crazy
Correct.
because I think none of them has really a chance this year.
But, well, Emma Bates was a former NCAA Division I champion. You have to have a certain talent level. Dakota has way overachieved to make the Olympics, and 12th in Paris was good. She ran fearless there. Wasn't she up near the front for a while, John, if I remember correctly?
Versailles, I think she had the lead, right? At the
But,
turnaround.
like, to me, like, even a good run here might not even be top 5. Now, she's got shoes that are a minute and a half better than everybody else. That could put her maybe, I mean, I still don't see any scenario where she wins it. Emma Bates, yeah, I just think she's got more talent level. You know, I can see it. So
now,
anyway,
one woman we should mention, she's not American, but she is sponsored by Puma, and she's a 2-time winner of this race, is Edna Kiplagat. Now, I don't think she's going to win, but if she has the Puma super shoes, she's 45 years old, but she was 3rd in Boston last year. She still shows up. Like we always say, oh, she's really old. Like, can she? Well, every year after year, she's always kind of close. And that is actually, I'm going to be curious to see, like, if you give her the shoes, what could she do?
Damn it. I should have put her in the preview because in my preview, it says it's a pet peeve if we don't mention someone. I feel like she could podium. I don't feel like she could win it, but maybe with the shoes, that'd be fascinating. And then if she crosses the finish line first, immediately, it's 100% the shoes. I mean, she's an amazing runner, but the shoes
but
good.
some people are saying here, people
wasting too much time.
In the comments. No one is these shoes have not been used in races from what we know. Maybe now someone's saying the European 10K Road Championships, but Dakota's been using them, but in training, not races. So we're going to see for the first time. I think people are getting a little ahead of this.
All right, got the poll. Who wins Boston? 67% are picking Hellen Obiri, 13% Lucchetti, 7% I squared. Who will be the top American? 34% are saying Bates, 28% Poppin. Yeah, I think that's good. And then 19% D'Amato. I mean, it's in the right order. You know, if you had like who is the most likely to be top 5 for the Americans, I'm skewing more towards Bates because I just think the higher upside. Although the shoes, I mean, that could be significant. All right, let's talk to men. Last year we had a crazy race. Sisay Lemma, who admittedly did come into Boston with a 2:01 PB in his last race. But this guy had run Boston several times before and had always been terrible. Was he scared of Boston? No. He goes out and like
60-19 through halfway.
Builds up a huge lead, blows up, holds on, wins. What will we get this year?
That's the question. Like, is Lemma going to run it back? And if he does, will anyone go with him? I did not get a chance to talk to him. Usually, his coach, Gamedu Jadefo, is usually one of the best guys to talk to because he coaches many of the top Ethiopians. He also coaches Amane Bariso, who's one of the top women. But I didn't see him at the press conference today, so I wasn't able to sort of get the scoop because Lemma, his English isn't amazing, so it would have been kind of difficult to get everything. He mentioned an injury. He did get injured last year, which ruled him out of the Olympics. And when he returned, he was only 10th in Valencia. It wasn't that impressive. So from very brief comments from him on the podium at the very start of the press conference, I didn't get the sense that he was like totally back from his injury. He said, this is the notes I had taken down. He said, I had an injury that I incurred. I will try to change my system of running and try to win. So that to me suggested he's not going to be quite as aggressive as he was last year. And perhaps that's because he's not quite as confident in his fitness, but that is a little bit of speculation on my part. Now, I did talk to some of the coaches and agents of other athletes though. And Evans Chebet, the hunger is still there with this guy. You could tell he's won Boston twice, 2022 and 2023. And on the podium at the very start, he said, I ran pretty good, position number 3 last year, but I had some problems, injuries. This year, no injury problem. I'm ready to run on Monday. I wish everybody all the best, but on Monday, I'm ready. And that's about as close to trash talk as you're going to get from from Evans Chebet. So he seems like he's ready to go. And then his training partner, Cyprian Kotut, they're both coached by Claudio Baradelli, Berardelli was quite high on this guy because he had been held back by injuries for quite some time. He'd run a decent race and then something would happen and he'd lose that progress. And Claudio said that his last 3 marathons, they've all gone pretty well and he's been able to build on them, stay healthy and keep improving. 2023, he won Amsterdam in a PB of 2:04:34. Then last year, he came to Boston. It was his first time running Boston. He was only 9th, so it's not crazy, but he came out of it in one piece and he rebounded, gets second in Berlin, 2:03:22, just behind the win. And since then, he's continued to train well. He said he's actually ahead of Chebet sometimes because Chebet doesn't really like to be in the very front leading the groups, but he's been hanging with Sebastian Sawe in some of these workouts. And Sawe was the world leader in the marathon, ran 2:02:05 last year in Valencia. So I think the question is, can he put it together on this course? Because like I said, Cote, he was only 9th last year, but I think those two are both ready to go. John Correa said that after winning Chicago last year, that was his breakthrough race. He runs 2:02, gets the victory with this big late move. And I think that's the kind of move you see that will win Boston as well. And he said I think he's even fitter now. He basically said, I was doing 120, 130 miles a week or something then, and I've upped that by about 10 miles. So he feels like he's ready to go. So I think those are kind of your main contenders. I would expect Chebet, Kotut, and Correa, the Kenyans, and then maybe you've got Sisay Lemma, but I don't know totally about his health.
But you wrote a whole preview acting like Conner Mantz was a lock for this thing. So
I tried to provide both sides of an argument here and stimulate some discussion.
If you haven't read the written preview, we did ask on Tuesday's show, can Conner Mantz win it? We had a nice discussion about that. Look, he's in the form of his life. 59 minutes low twice, including in New York, which is not an easy course. And then, top 10 in the Olympics. Look, I think that he definitely is a 2:05 guy at the worst. Probably even 2:04, which would be the American record, right?
Yeah.
But despite that, I think it's unlikely that he wins this race. And I think it's unlikely he ever wins a major. Like, to be honest, in the men's side, even on the women's side, like most of the winners are crazy, crazy fast. So I think most of the winners are 2:02, 2:03 guys. They're not 2:04, 2:05 guys. I'm talking about your ultimate potential in the marathon. So, but I'm excited to see him in it. I do like, this is what I love about Boston is it's unlikely we're going to have a repeat of last year where someone goes out fast. So you get to see the Americans in the lead pack. You get to see Manz. You get to see the runners thinking about things. And we'll see what happens. But, you were reading off some great quotes there. On the net downside for the Americans, C.J. Albertson said, this has not been my best training block, but he's done enough to be ready to race. I mean, that guy's tough. So I've heard he's the only runner I've ever heard himself downplay his training block and then still go out and run. Like it doesn't really matter. Like he'll basically go out and run 2:10 and 2:11, even if he's had a bad day. And then he'll run like 2:08, 2:09 if he's had a good day. Maybe I'm slightly exaggerating. Actually,
no, I remember last year, he wasn't talking himself up and saying he'd been doing that great, but he went out and ran 2:09 and still got it done. So yeah, I think he's pretty consistent, but if he's like, this was what he told Joseph Carroll, they were talking about what would be a good run for him. And CJ said his baseline goal is top 10, but he didn't think the fitness was there for top 5. He said that was unrealistic. So I think that's I would expect him to be around the 10th place range.
Speaking of great quotes from Joseph, I forgot, Dakota Popin said, this has been my best training block. I am expecting my best result here. Sara Hall, this has been one of my best marathon build-ups. But the problem with Sara Hall is I just don't trust her in Boston. So now, Brian Way on YouTube wants to know, I mean, Young's always finishing near you, Mantz, but no one ever talks about Young in the same way as Mantz. which is kind of interesting. But I view this as kind of like an Emma Bates situation on the women's side, but slightly different because Mantz is much more consistent. But like the upside for Mantz is just higher than Young. Young can beat Mantz, but I don't think Young can beat the field. I don't think Mantz is going to beat the field, but I could sort of envision a scenario where a former NCAA champion, two-time NCAA champion, does it.
Yeah, Manz. I mean, Clayton Young was an NCAA champion in the 10,000 at BYU, but he did that when he was, I think he was 25 years old at that point. That was, his senior year. Whereas Conner Mantz was a two-time NCAA cross champ. Clayton Young was never good at cross country for BYU. And Connor's run a lot faster in the half marathon. We saw it even just recently. Clayton's clearly made for the marathon, the way I see it, whereas I think Conner can excel, anything from 5K up to the marathon. But yeah, I think Conner just has the highest ceiling, even though they do seem to be pretty close in most of these marathons. Conner, it was interesting talking to him because I asked him what would be a good race. Like, are you going to be, is this podium or bust, or would you be happy with fourth or fifth? And he's like, yeah, I think I'd be happy with fourth or fifth because my best finish in a major at this point is sixth. And he's also said, in terms of like winning a major one day, he said, look, the guys who win majors, they're the ones who've been on the podium for a few years, and if that's how I want to be thinking, I'd like to win at some point, but he's kind of realistic. Like, that's the level you need to be at. You need to be capable of contending, and then maybe you have a good day. So far, he hasn't been capable of contending in a major. And I was asking him about some of his previous races, because the last time he ran Boston, he didn't do well. He said it was his worst marathon. He said it was a humbling experience, and it actually caused him to lose some confidence. And I think we saw that a bit last year in New York, when there's this big move by Evans Chebet when they come into Manhattan with about 10 miles to go. And Mantz just backs off. He's like, no. I've seen this move before in Boston. It wrecked me. I was staggering to the finish line. I'm not going to get broken by that again. I'm going to back off a little bit. And Mantz is at his best is when he's running aggressively and going for it. And I think he realized after that race that actually might have been a mistake, because he thought maybe he wasn't saying, oh, I could have held on and won, but he was like, looking back, I was really well prepared going in. My training going to New York had been fantastic. And my final mile, I closed it feeling great. He was, it went really well for him. And he was like, I think I had a little bit more left in the tank than I thought of. I probably should have gone with that move. And that's what he's learned coming into this one. It seems like if there's a big move made, which I expect there will be, because Chebet's in here, that's kind of how he likes to run. That's how Korea won Chicago last year. If there's something, with maybe 4 or 5 miles to go, Conner Mantz is mentally he's going to be like, all right, I'm going to try my best. I'm going to try to go with this and try to win. Can he physically actually do that? Still not sure about that, but I think he's not going to doubt himself as much, given how he's able to run quite aggressively in the Olympics and hold on well there, and how much left he had in the tank in New York last year, only finishing sixth.
All right, you can see the polls up on the screen. Conner Mantz, where will he finish? 44% say fourth to fifth, 28% say second to third, 9% do say he's going to win it. Will he ever win a major? 44% yes, 56% no. All right, let's make our predictions and then get to the Jane Hedegren talk, because I'm getting, there's some ridiculous takes in the message board that I've got to set people straight. I'm here to, sometimes I just get the good big picture right. Some people are just terrible at that. I never fail. I never let you down, people. By the way, if you're enjoying this, you don't want to have to catch it live in your lunch break. You want to join the supporters club today, go to letsrun.com/subscribe. But guys, like, the economy's tanking, or average revenue is down. Can you go to the shop right now? Go to shop.letsrun.com, buy like 10 t-shirts, buy like gift supporters club memberships. Thank you very much. All right, predictions. I'm going men's side. John, you're talking about Evans Chebet. Like, I love that. Since we don't hear about Lemma, I'm going to pick him to win. Mantz is going to be my top American, but I don't see him on the podium. No. For the women, I'd be a fool not to pick Hellen Obiri. If she doesn't do it, I like Y squared. Top American. I'm I'm going to go with Emma Bates.
All right. Men's picks. I'm riding John Courier. He's going to go Chicago, Boston. He'll be the first pair of siblings, him and Wesley, to win the Boston Marathon. And he already said whatever prize money he wins, he's going to donate some of it to the Transcend Running Academy back in Kenya. So, which I thought was quite noble, covering school fees. He wants to inspire the next generation of Kenyan athletes to come over and run Boston like he is. So, yeah, Courier is my men's pick. And I think Mantz, top American. I'll say he finishes 4th. I think he's ready to run really well. He could run a great race and still get 4th because this is just a good field. Women's side, Obiri for the win. Top American, I will roll with Popane.
I like John Courier as well. His coach or advisor or something. Ron Mann has probably had more success over the history of anyone on the Boston course. Coach Wesley to the victory. Which Hussein was it? Was it Mubarak Hussein? I feel like it was somebody else.
Ibrahim Hussein?
Ibrahim Hussein, excuse me. Ibrahim Hussein to the victory back in the day. I mean, coming in hot after Chicago, he's at another level. His brother's done well on this course. I hope Mantz does it, because then he'll be up there the whole time. Be very interesting TV. The other guys I don't really expect much from, except somehow Clayton Young will be like 15 seconds behind him. For the women, I think you have to pick Obiri. Doesn't, I'm just it's sort of 50-50 whether her or somebody else wins it. I would love to see Emma Bates get it together. But I think the safer pick is Dakota. She's very consistent. The upside isn't there, but she was really good last year. That Olympic run was very good.
Well,
yeah, but what is
you saying?
Olympic?
She's really consistent. I don't know. She had a great Olympic trials, though she was a fair amount behind the first two, and she had a really fantastic Olympics. But she ran New York after that. That didn't go all that well. Where did she finish in New York? I don't know if I would call her like super consistent.
Okay, maybe with Super Shoes, I should put more credits on your 3rd marathon of the year, but I sort of discount that one.
Yeah, I do give her some grace, but she was 17th in that one, 2:31. So,
by the way, folks, I know a lot of you commenting on YouTube. We also have a phone number, 844 Let's Run. I just answered a phone call. Reporter doing a feature on Sam Gilman in Utah. Johnny needs our perspective. I told him you or I would call him back when we finish the podcast. I guess he's not watching.
Phone calls from random people in the middle of doing our podcast, Robert. You got to treat our viewers with some respect. I thought this was like a family emergency.
Didn't hear your bad analysis or your bad takes. I already made my takes, and I knew y'all were going to make some picks that weren't as good as mine. So
finally, Robert just reveals this is how he views the podcast. I say what I have to say, and then I just stop listening when the other two are talking because they couldn't possibly say anything better or smarter than I did.
Okay. Let's move to the high school ranks. Last night, I'm doing the homepage. It's about, I think it was midnight, maybe later. And it's hard to figure out which college meet is happening this weekend, what obscure result, because there might be a 5K in one place and 800 somewhere else. And I'm like, wait a minute. Brian Clay's going on. I knew that Jane Hedegren was running there. I'm like, when is that race? A lot of times there are distance races or at night. So I click on this thread and someone's talking about how she's leading it. I thought he was joking at first. And then I'm like, wait a minute. So then I try to find the live results site. And by the time there was two results sites. By the time I got to the live one, it was over. And I think I'd seen a split. I was like, holy shit, what'd she do? And I saw 14:57. I was like, wow, that is impressive. That was super impressive. And I spent a lot of time analyzing it. I was like, and I put a post up on the message board right away. Yet again, folks, we internally track who has the most upvotes and downvotes on Let's Run annually. One of the top 5 posters on there. My brilliant observations. But I put a post on there that sort of put it in perspective. And this is what I said. What a run. Let's put this in perspective. She's now faster than Caitlin Toohey. has ever run in her life. The high school record before Jane was 15:25. Now it's 14:57. Only 5 collegiate women have ever broken 15. So if Jane was in college, she'd be number 6 all time. She hit 3,200s in 9:36 and then had to keep going for another more than a mile. It's just super impressive. So I'm bowing down to how good it is. But I want to push back against some of this talk. First of all, when did you guys find out about this result and how stunned were you? Now, by the way, she had run 15:13 indoors, and another girl who we've never even heard of has run 15:16 indoors.
I woke up and saw it on the homepage, and I thought to myself, holy shit, 14:57, that's really good for a college woman. But here's the thing. I see some of these college women, like, Lexi Halliday Lowry was in this race for BYU. She runs 14:52. Hilda Alemoy, Florida. The winner was Paloma Kosgei of New Mexico, 14:52. Like Chloe Scrimger of Georgetown, 15:05. Sophia Kennedy of Stanford, 15:11. I see those times and like, whatever. Like that's just, super shoes women's running like in college. Those ones don't really move the needle for me as much because I just expect the top college women, now the best ones are going to be under 15. And you're going to have a bunch in that 15:0 to, 15:10 range. 14:57 though for a high schooler for a high schooler to be competitive with the very best in college, that's rare. We have seen it with like Mary Kane was better than the best collegians. Caitlin Toohey, some of her times have been pretty comparable, but to see the numbers 14:57 next to a high school girl, I was like, yes, that's crazy impressive.
Plus, she led most of the race once the rabbit stopped. Sundance Serenity Hideaway on YouTube earlier had some interesting comments. I watched this race. Wow, just wow. I would definitely say that she is now the GOAT. There's no comparison. Number 1, she has the fastest high school mile ever. 2, fastest high school 3,000 ever. 3, fastest high school 3,200. Fastest 2 mile. 5,000. High school cross country. She broke Cooley's cross country record at NXN. And I mean, she won the Nike Cross Nationals by what, like 40 something seconds. So I'm willing to say she's the best high school distance runner we've ever seen in the U.S. But look, Mary Kane, have we forgotten? Mary Kane, get back to me when Jane Hedegren is top 9 in the world. Mary Kane was top 9 in the world's final in high school.
Mary Kane was way better than her in high school. What are we talking about? Mary Kane was world class in high school in the 1500. She's not the best miler in high school. She made the best mile time because Kane didn't run a mile, but Mary Kane was better. Or the times come down.
So is Mary Decker. I mean, Athing Mu, it depends what events you want to go to. Athing Mu broke the American record in the 600 and won that when she was a junior in high school. So Jane Hedegren, in terms of like long distance, I think this season she's had tops anything Toohey had. Toohey did it over multiple years. She won an XN 3 times, but even with the super shoes, the times are faster and just start to finish. Yes, this is probably the greatest like long distance campaign we've seen by a high school distance runner. But when you get into the middle distances, we've seen like Kane was world class as a high school junior, and Hedengren 14:57 is good. It's not world class at this point.
Well, with everything these days, the times are losing the historical comparison. 15:28 was a high school record heading into this year. But
15:24,
yes, I found out.
Let's keep saying this. It's 15:24 was the previous record. Elizabeth Leachman last year.
15:25, 27, I thought.
15:24 by Leachman.
Okay.
15:25. Sorry, yeah, you are right.
Well, I'm glad you were saying that because I wanted to push back.
Okay, excuse me. 28 seconds.
Push back against some of this. There was
But one quick, you asked when I found out about this.
So
there was about midnight moderating the forums, and I saw this thread about Hedegren running 14:57, and I thought, oh my God, the spammer guy who makes the crazy threads to get attention and then posts despicable stuff is back. We haven't seen him. He's been gone for months. And I'm like, oh my God, he's back. And I clicked on it and I was like, oh wait, this is real. This really happened. And then the race was over at this point. I pulled it up, and a couple of things for this one stand out for me. One, as Robert said, the rabbit went 2,600. She then led the rest of the way over a mile till 4,400. the final, or 4,200. So essentially a mile. And then she got out kicked the last 2 laps, but there was like no fear from her. I mean, to me, that was just part of the impressive part. And there's a thread here, some comments here on YouTube saying, oh, Robert always says tap the brakes on the high school phenoms. Sure, I guess so. But like when I look at this photo, he doesn't look like a child out there versus these women. She's taller than them. She looks healthy, that sort of stuff. Like she's coming on late in her high school career. It's not like she's coming on as a 16-year-old. So, yeah, with everyone, I said, you don't know when your moment in the sun is. This could be it for her, and I hope to God she's enjoying it. She's got a gift from God, but it was just super impressive.
Yeah, I wanted her to pump the brakes because we've been burned by too many high schoolers. I do think it's a positive. She turns 19 in September, so she's not overage, but she's old for her. She's the right age, right in the right grade, but September birthday. But that's a good thing for women. She's not like a 14-year-old running well. But what somebody was saying, like, she might be able to make worlds, and I'm like, why in the hell would she want to go to worlds? That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. First of all, there's Americans that you've barely even heard of. Well, I shouldn't say you barely heard of, but there's Americans we don't even really consider to be like 5,000 meter runners that have run under. We had 3 Americans of 14:48 or faster indoors this year. Elise Craney, Carissa Schweizer can do that in their sleep. So I don't think she would make worlds if she tried out. But I thought the idea of a lot of people were saying she should try to out for worlds and then go pro immediately. And I thought these were 2 of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard. Like, one, we have world-class pros, world junior champions coming to the NCAA. Admittedly, the Kenyans don't make as much on their contract, but you need sort of a place to be competitive and compete and have goals when you're running 14:57, and that's a good time. When you run 14:7 and you go to Worlds, you get destroyed. So why would you want to extend your college season, your high school track season through September, mess up your college season? You don't.
All right, but Robert, stop being ridiculous. Why do you want to go to the World Championships? That's what every runner in the world wants to do. It's the biggest meet outside the Olympics. Yeah. Every pros tries to do that. Stop trying to act like this is some ridiculous aim of her. Of course, you want to run a world champ.
John,
don't tell someone what their dream should be, Robert. It's a dream. And if she wants to do worlds, it's great. But the thing for me, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Whoa, I was speaking.
It's pretending that she would make the world's team. I think she's still a whole level below that. Even if a couple women are hurt this year, a 14:57 is not the ability to be worlds. She got beat by 2 collegians. I think there's another level she needs to develop to make the world's team. I don't think she would make the team, is my takeaway.
No, I agree with Robert's take. The competition she's going to face, her PRs put her among the best in the NCAA, but I don't think she's going to walk into the NCAA and just be smoking everyone from the gun. She should have some good competition, and it's probably going to keep getting better. And I also think, look, Hobbs Kessler got a pro contract in college coming out of high school because he ran 3:34 and was a legitimate threat to make the Olympic team that year. Jane Hedegren right now, I don't think is really a legit threat to make the U.S. team. I think someone like Houlihan, Schweizer, Craney, I think they're going to blow her doors off the last lap in the 400, the last 400. So I think it makes sense for her to, maybe she goes up a level, she has another breakthrough. But I think the level she's at, makes sense to go to college. She's got a great coach. Diljeet Taylor will be coaching her next year at BYU. I think that makes a lot of sense to me. And then I also don't know, is she going to be interested in serving a Mormon mission or not?
Before you guys rudely interrupted me, I was making a point from a coaching standpoint. If anyone lets her try out, go to Worlds, I think they're making a coaching mistake. You have to coach. You have to leave people with more to achieve. So I just think that, like, she can get paid now and go to college. She can sign a pro shoot contract and still get paid to run in college. It's an amazing developmental thing. So I would definitely not do that. Definitely not. Yes, it's not my job to put her to set her goals, but I think people who are in charge should be like, no, you're not at that level. You had a great year. I guess you could say that she shouldn't run against the collegians too. So I just thought that was insane. And then I'm like, what? People are like, she's got to go pro. And John just said, Hobbs Kessler was going to make the Olympic team. Please, he didn't even make the Olympic finals in 2021. So
Robert, back then, there was tons of anticipation.
3:34 was one of the fastest times by an American heading into the Olympic trials. That was not like until we had Hawker, we had Centro, we had Nagus, and there, he was like, don't act like that was absurd, Robert. I know he didn't make the final, but there's a reason why he got that contract. He was faster than any of the college guys.
The other point I'm going to make is back then you had to go pro. Like a lot of people actually look at it bad. Mary Kane, if Mary Kane, I don't think Mary Kane would have developed under anybody's coaching. So she got a lot of money out of it. From a money standpoint, you used to have to do it. Now you can still get paid, maybe not as much, and go to college. But also, I guess this was true for Mary Kane. Hedegren's not poor. Her father's a professor at BYU. So I just think the college system is definitely the way to go. And the main reason why I'm pushing the brakes on all of this is why? We need to appreciate what this is. This is an amazing high school performance. It does not mean she's going to be a world beater. We actually, Zola Budd ran, faster than this barefoot 40 years ago in high school, but pump the brakes because she's running the women's 5,000. A U.S. woman has never, ever medaled in the 5,000 on the global stage. And to be good at that event, you need to be under, to be honest, you really need to be under 14, 15. So, Supporters Club member McRunning made a great point. He says, everyone's talking about this, we've never seen anything like this. He's like, well, let's compare it to the men. The World Athletic Scoring Tables converted time to 13:11 for males. But if you look at proximity to the world record, Daniel Simmons' recent 13:25 high school record is slightly ahead compared to the men's world record. Simmons' high school record is 50 seconds slower, which is 6.3%. Compared to the women's world record, Hedegren's high school record is 57.72% is slower, which is 6.4%. Those percentages are close enough that I think that we can say they're on the same level. So the 14:57 is shocking. But the problem is the very, very top women are still just as much ahead of Jane Hedegren as the top men are ahead of Daniel Simmons. So let's enjoy it for what they are. They're big talents. If she wants to go pro, I guess she could do it. If Diljit would agree to pay her, but I wouldn't do it. I would stay in college.
Okay, Robert, there's separate issues here. I would say go to college, do the NIL, you can get paid. I think probably most of us agree on that. But whether she tries out for the world team is a different issue. And Robert, you would agree if this was an Olympic year, 100% she should do the trials.
The trials are a once in a lifetime opportunity. I don't have.
Okay, thank you. So people can decide slightly different than you. It's not that some crazy thing if she wants to do US. It's not the end of her life if she decides to train for USA's in July. Or is it the first week of August? But Brian, like you said, there's a comment here from Brian Way. The game has changed. She's a long way from being where she needs to be in the world stage. Don't get me wrong, I'm very impressed. But does she run 14 flat a few years from now? I hope so, but maybe she disappears. I mean, that's the new standard. You need to be 14 flat as a woman. I mean, that's
the world record. That's the world record.
Okay, you got to be in the 14-15 range, essentially, to start being competitive. That's where it's going to be, John.
Yeah, so, Robert said that.
She's got 45 seconds to go.
Speaking of 5Ks, Athing Mu is running a 5K tonight. Well, she's not going to finish it, but we have some clarification. I pushed back about, you guys are, she's entered him outside. What's this going to mean? I'm like, well, let's see what happens here. And I've been trying to get clarification about Athing Mu from her coach, Bobby Kersey, for quite some time and still haven't been able to connect with him. But apparently Citius Mag was able to, because they tweeted out that she, according to Kersey, she's not expected to go the full distance in the 5,000 meters tonight, quote unquote, just an early season fitness check and getting comfortable with racing in a large group. This still seems very weird to me. This is a woman who was an NCAA champion in the 400 meters in college. She's an Olympic and world champion in the 800 meters. And she obviously had a high profile fall at the Olympic trials. Like, she's never been that comfortable in a pack. And I think part of that is just, she has really long legs and a long stride. That's part of what makes her great. It's also like somewhat of a vulnerability in a closer race. But do you buy the logic on this at all? Like, she should be running a 5K, or what do you think?
You blow me away. I don't understand this. You're telling me I can't tell Jane Hedegren's advisors what to do. and that she should shut down her season before Worlds. But you think this is crazy that Athing Mu, who never races, is going back into race. I like it. Back when Alan Webb was running, I was like, they should have put him in some like 405 races and just let him run on the rail to get used to it. So I think it's good just to get Athing Mu in a track, like period. It's better than not being on a track. Like, if she's doing a tempo run, does she need? I mean,
But
hell, I can get
Robert,
three boys that are.
I get that to a point, but you're talking about. To me, it makes more sense if you're going to do this, put her in a 1500 somewhere, because that's going to be closer to the pace that you're going to be going at, as opposed to racing some college kids in a 5K. I just don't think that replicates an 800 very well.
It doesn't really replicate it, but maybe they're trying to get an appearance fee, or they're trying to get some sort of Nike thing. We competed in a race. I don't know. There could be behind the scenes contractual issues here that we are not aware of. But I'd rather get it started than not. But I think you did misspoke. You said you've not been able to reach Bobby Kersey. That's not true. You've been reaching with him. You just haven't got permission for him to talk to you about this. So, there's multiple layers of publicist, and this isn't a normal situation. This is a woman who seemingly does not love to run like Sydney and has a great gift. So I hope that she gets out there. She realizes she missed it. She starts competing. She gets used to comfortable running in a pack. I don't know. It's better than not seeing her run. That's all I have to say. So is it weird? Yes. But will I be looking to see how far she makes it at a wet pace? Yes. It's no different than following someone's Strava segment, really.
Yeah, it's not a normal situation. She was the Olympic champion at 19. She's like a talent we've never seen before. We're talking about Jane Hedegren. Imagine Jane Hedegren winning the Olympics if the Olympics were next year. That's the equivalent. Bobby's never coached really an 800-meter runner like this before. He's going to have unorthodox things. Having a race isn't crazy. I don't really see what a 5K does. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious to see what it is, because she's got such a long stride. The pace is so different. Is she really going to tuck in the pack? Not these little girls shuffling around. I mean, it's just, I feel like the strides are going to be different for everybody.
And plus, when you're running the same pace and not making moves, it doesn't mean anything. She should get in a 4:10, 1500-meter race. That's not rapid. It's hard to find those. They don't
Okay, we all agree on that one.
That was the point I was trying to make.
Apparently, he agrees with you now, John.
Was I the only one that said, like, people act? I'm like, when she moved to Bobby Kersey, I'm like, this guy has no track record of coaching 800-meter runners, really. Then we found out he coached one way back in the day. But I'm like, no one's concerned about this. It's just all talent level. Just rising.
People were concerned about it. It was a huge point. She had won back-to-back global titles with Milton Mallard. And I'll be fair to Bobby Kersey. She ran an American record with him in 2023. At the end of that season, she finished second at USA's in the 1500. I think the questions about Kersey is, why are you having her focus on the 1500 at all when this woman is clearly a monster talent in the 400? She set the NCAA record in the 400 meters, and she hasn't raced a single 400 under Bobby Kersey. Now, she was injured last year, but if she's not running that event, one, I think they're missing out just in terms of fans. I'd like to see what she can run in a 400. And two, I just think he kind of said, we need to, if she's going to break the world record on the 800, she needs to get stronger. And I'm just not certain that's the case. Jarmila Kratochvilova, the current world record holder, was a 400, 800 woman. She didn't care about the 1500. She just, played to her strengths. So I don't know. I think there's different ways to attack it. And some people on in the message board saying they're convinced the reason why Mo hasn't run the 400 is because he doesn't want her going up against Sydney McLaughlin-Navroni. And Bobby has said that. He didn't see any reason for them to race against each other. And I think that's a real shame if they don't. But I'm also waiting to see how this season unfolds. If she's still running 800s, 15s, and dropping out of a 5K and not doing any 400s, I just think that's a missed opportunity for someone who we know is a great, great talent in the 400.
All right, I gotta go to the airport soon, guys. It's an hour and a half for a Friday 15 podcast. Friday 15. We really meant an hour and 15. But Brian Way, Roger, aren't you saying we should pump the brakes on these teenage stars? How often high school times end up being lifetime PRs for women? It happens a lot. Let's be honest. But the positive with Jane is she's a senior in high school and she's coming on. But what do you think? I'll end with this. What do you think's more likely? Jane Hedegren's lifetime 5,000 meter PB is 14:57, or she medals on the global stage in the 5,000 or 10,000.
I mean, it's probably 14:57, but that's just an incredibly high bar to clear.
I might go meddling, 10%.
Yeah, I think the meddling might be a little. That's a tough one. I think she's going to PR, so I think they're both like less than 20%. So
we haven't had an American woman medal in those events in 10 years.
but could track if Grand Slam track and events like that don't work out, and there's some sort of global recession or something, could there be so little money on the track that all the runners run to the road, so we medal by default?
I guess you're getting into forces that are beyond my ability to predict. Okay, that'll do it for the Friday 15. Weldon.
Breaking news. Is Donavan Brazier back? True, guys. Have you seen this thread?
I saw the thread. Yeah, Craig Engels said he was going to Flagstaff to go train with Donavan Brazier. I don't have an update for you. I tried to reach out about Donavan a few weeks ago, and he looked like he was, making some progress, but still trying to get back into a system where he's consistently running and training. And that'll be great if that's the case. He's still, he's 20, would be just turning 28, I think, right now. So that's not too old.
Have you seen the interview? Make sure this isn't a troll. I'm so excited with this news.
There was like 4 people started threads about this. Like, I kind of forgot how insanely popular Donavan Brazier is. So unless there's some concerted effort by one troll to start like 4 or 5 different threads, it does seem like Craig Engels said something about it. I know those two are close, but I will admit I haven't actually seen the interview in question.
Okay, I've got a very good BS detector in the forums that confirms enough. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll link to the thread. It's a great week. Great week. Boston Marathon week. Jane Hedegren 14:57, and now Donavan Brazier is back. John, wish I was there. Enjoy Boston. Check back Monday, guys, for the post-race reaction. And you want all the content from Let's Run, join the supporters club, let'srun.com/subscribe.